Okay, hello. Thanks for out. And we also have Trey on the call. We're gonna do some short presentations and discussion. And just as a reminder, so Traci.
All right. Thank you, Amanda. Let me see if I can figure out how to. Let's see. Amanda, are you seeing
slides?
Okay, because how I lost you guys, but okay. Oops. Okay. We'll go through this Phillips and natural evolution, and just real briefly. What can be recycled that can be recycled today. So it's basically anything with a circuit board recycled. So computer equipment, networking equipment, cell phones, security equipment, wide appliances. So this is kind of a question that I get a fair amount, but why the effort? Environmental reasons, depending on where you live. So sometimes that's a hard, we don't think of it in the same way that areas might be, but it is about conserving space and conserving our resources. Risk mitigation. We'll talk about that further here in a minute. And this is a bit dated, but it's one of the best kind of examples of how much resources can be saved just in one computer. So you can see this is a fairly updated study from 53 points of eWaste was generated. Cruise ships. So it's an ever-growing. What are we talking about? Data, loss of revenue. So anytime, especially for companies, and even personally, stolen, it's very expensive. It's very time consuming to get identity or figure out exactly what was stolen, etc. So when we think of our identity getting stolen, not dealing with your end of life equipment absolutely is a risk in that. It's not just having your identity taken via the internet. So about making sure that proper end of life processing is done. Data security, what kind of records are we talking about? We use our devices for it's smart in its data, has some ability to hang on to some pieces of information. Clearly, some, depending on the device type, it holds more information, but still you have to ask yourself, do you really want that information out? So I like this because I think it really puts into term, but we don't have, here in the United States, we don't have a e-waste law. comprehensively time, and everything on the left-hand side, you can see everything in red is covered under RCRA. So companies, we find that companies that already operate have that discipline and that level of adherence, understand this, and actually are in compliance a lot more than don't have that knowledge. So on the right hand see that I actually ran across this some time ago, but it's a study from MIT about strategic mineral management. And you can see that we've already reached peak production for certain metals, and all these metals are actually found and contained within eWaste. So if we're really looking and having conversations about conservation, we need to be looking at eWaste as not only risk, but a way to conserve our resources. But number of companies that have actually or have based upon within and international law is ever increasing, and which is a good. Been a lot of people that some really bad actors that have just export for a number of years. We've been in business almost 18 years, and I'm flabbergasted what has gone on in our industry, unfortunately. But finally, there are some things that have people are beginning to pay some price fines and jail time. So hopefully, you know, people are starting to get. It's ever incumbent upon the people that are generating and to ensure that the company that they're dealing with is a reputable company. So we'll go into just how to start a recycling. I like to keep things, you know, simple, transportation recycling. It doesn't matter if it's a nonprofit, it's a call. So in order, you know, depending on your size, on how each of these three things are. So we find, as with any other recycling commodity, if the more convenient it is for people to collection, there's all types of systems. You know, there's the event-based stuff, there's the consistent event-based, whether it's just a couple of times a year, that can also be at businesses, the IT departments, people get used to certain things. So establishing the consistent process. Good. You've seen everything from horse trailers to semi loads and pickup trucks, and you know, we do a lot. And some that's not to say that, you know, basically however you can get a clean center is how it needs to happen. Say this, recycling is pretty complex. It's not like the other commodities. It's not, you know, just paper or aluminum cans. It's a wide variety of material we like to deal with. I've said this for a long time. Recycle it properly with is a response, put it in the landfill. A good subtitle D landfill has more environmental oversight than, I know that somewhat it's just people exporting process e-waste in non-responsible manner causes more damage. So I put this, this is just a recycler. as you're trying to make those decisions. Environmental health and safety policy. Who are your downstream vendors? They should be able to answer these questions, and they should be forthright in giving you this information. Are their downstream processors audited? If so, how? And is it continue their data security procedure? If you have established procedures in place that are monitoring, checking, making sure that certain things are being done in a certain manner, then there's a lot of room, subjective errors, errors that occur, and what that's about your data. It's about your liability when you turn over that equipment. What about safety? Are they adhering to, do they have a regular training program? How is that accomplished? What about testing? And who is doing testing? So we do noise testing, we do ergonomics testing, we do air testing. Are these people qualified? How often is it done? What happens if a test result comes back too high or above a particular standard? What are their insurance? What sort of insurance capability? All these things should be at this point in our and if the recycler that you're dealing with cannot answer these questions, then there's so there's two industry certifications out. We happen to be East, come a long way. We have believed in the eSteward standard and have chosen that for it best matches our philosophy and how we operate our business. So it's something we actually participated in eSteward standard before it was a standard, and was part of the process of obtaining that sort of standard, writing that certification and that standard, and have been involved in that process along the way. But both of these links have, and you can search if you're trying to find and locate a recycler. And these are just a few resources. There's a new film put out, Death by Design, that's got a pretty good overview in planned obsolescence and some of the challenges of the industry. And it's currently to rent it, but it's like a couple of dollars to rent. And PBS did a documentary a few years ago, and that's got pretty good information about it. And link to that study that I referenced. High Tech, it's a good book. Little goes into more detail about resources, and she actually traveled all over the world to track down where virgin resources are actually, and recovered their process of building a computer. And again, every Monday Matters, it's a little book, but there's a lot of great tips in that. So.
All right. While I get my slides ready, isn't natural evolution the only certified place in Oklahoma?
We are.
So eSteward certification is a little more rigorous than R2.
It is.
So
it
awesome.
is.
Good stuff. All right, let's see if I can share my screen. Need desktop too. What's going on? Okay. Nope. Well, that's okay. And so I'm Amanda Scofield. I work at the Department of Environmental Quality. And I work in land protection, sustainability, and I coordinate the Oklahoma Computer Equipment Recovery Act. So it's kind of a mouthful, and we like to shorten it to OSERA, and that's how I'll be referring to it. So it's kind of the state's role in SID is OSERA. So that establishes an environmentally sound way for household consumers to recycle their computers. And it's set up as an EPR law user responsibility. So they're responsible for a recovery program. So getting the back from the consumer and responsibly. So only certain electronics are covered under this. It is the Oklahoma Computer Equipment Recovery Act. So it deals with computers and computers. So under the act with computers, so what falls under that: tablets, e-readers, gaming computers, netbooks, notebooks, and of course monitors. What is not covered under the act is TVs. That's a big one. Any part of a motor vehicle, telephone devices, calculators, and PDAs. So it was created in what's usually, I think, is outdated. We all know how quickly. So under the act, there are requirements for manufacturers and DEQ. And for the consumer, they just have to, they just need to be aware of their options and pursue those options and remove their personal data, like Traci mentioned. So manufacturers, they have to submit an annual review, submit an annual report, and they the pounds collected in the reporting year, and the number of collection events they hold, and they also have to have a recovery plan. So DEQ's role is to review and approve their reports and their plans, and to keep the manufacturers, and of course public education. So we have a huge role. They just only sell devices from compliant manufacturers. Yeah, I'm sorry I couldn't, but yeah, I had this graph of OSERA and pounds collected. So basically, collected peaked in 2011 and has since been steadily declining. And there's a few reasons for that decline. So to give you an idea, in 2011, there was over 3 million, and in 2019, there was under 5 collected. And just imagine a steady decline there. So one reason for that decline is low manufacturer participation. So manufacturers, they aren't holding collection events. Only one has held an event since 2012. They also, yeah. So they are just of roughly 40 registered manufacturers are reporting numbers at all, and those are the big sevens: HP, Amazon, So that's another reason. We likely won't see the effects of COVID until next year, and that has to do with suspending their drop-off locations. And that brings me back to consumers. Consumers actually have locations, and that because all manufacturers have mail back programs. You have drop-off programs. So the real reason for the decline, electronics today are much lighter and much smaller than they used to be. And that has a lot to do with RT glass, so cathode ray tube glass is not being used anymore. It's being replaced with plastics. So smaller and lighter. And yeah, that's all I got on OSERA. So let's see. David, do we need to write our legislative representatives to encourage mandate or participation? Yeah, you could definitely write your state representatives. And there's not a letter or template. I don't have one at least, but that's a great idea. It'd be easy to, wouldn't be difficult to create one.
Yeah, participation in more I think from consumers is a good thing. You know, there's several different models throughout the US, and I know she looks at that every day, but there's the California model, Washington's got them on, Illinois, Texas, and then Oklahoma, and varying degrees of success without I think, you know, status quo or in the decline as far as you know, producers and companies actually participating, at least with the state.
Yeah, and some of those other models, they put some put the responsibility on the manufacturer, like Oklahoma does, and the retailer or the consumer. So it just depends. And it's also, there's 25 states which have electronic legislation, and they were all created around the same time, around 2010. And since then, there haven't been any other ones. So what questions do you guys have? Thoughts, comments, concerns? Hi, Jessica. Good to see you.
Good to see you too, Amanda. So much information that we needed. I thought it was really interesting. Traci, Natural Evolution is the only certified recycler in the state. I feel like there's a lot of other that I feel like I've trusted. Take my laptop and my computers, and I had no idea that they weren't even certified. So
there are certified. Oklahoma City, there's R2 companies. So it's definitely worth taking. We can go to those more information about each of those standards, but there are two's come a long way from where they first started, but there are some differences in those standards and how they go about things. So it's if you're tasked with that, or really want to be aware, then I definitely encourage everybody to go educate themselves about that a little bit more. So we're actually, we're the only named e-steward company in the United
that's cool.
States.
That blows my mind.
Yeah.
Sorry. Thank
Kind
you.
of a little thing.
Yeah, anyone else?
How many people have recycling programs? You do? Okay. Yeah.
Yes, we have a recycling program here at Keep Oklahoma Beautiful in partnership with PepsiCo Recycling. We give the bins to anyone that wants to participate in their recycling program. It's national, and you can actually give me how many bags you've recycled, and I add it into their national program, and then you see the impact through their analytics.
Yeah. But not for e-waste. Yeah. Yeah.
Aluminum, plastics 1 and 2.
Yeah. Yeah. E-waste is a whole different beast.
I get a lot of calls from just citizens, and they ask me all the time. And staples are a good option. They have free collection programs. They have some restrictions, and they have a website there. But yeah, it's harder for, those rural communities, and people ask me all the time about TVs, and that's an even more difficult question.
Most of rural event-based, there's a few areas across the state that have full-time recycling of e-waste, but some of the OEM programs have pulled back, and then Instamax is slowly closed some of, to keep open. A lot of other states, there's a fee, so people pay. To
Yeah, so gets those fees in. I've been using them to events throughout the state. So of course funding is, but yeah, it's to them back into action. So
it's too bad that we can't go like back to the old days and get a nickel for every bottle we turn in, that kind of thing.
Yeah, a few years ago, they look at a different model and actually model it off with the tire program. Pretty successful here, and unfortunately, action with legislators to, but it's at the end of the day, see it successful, and we're not seeing a big movement legislatively to make that happen. So. It looks like we're going to be catapulted out of the breakout session. So thank you guys for participating.
Yeah, thanks for joining, and yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you so much.
yeah, and feel free to reach out to us if you have any
Please.
questions.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.